What is going on, everybody? Zeri back here from Zeri's Mobile Gaming, coming at you tonight to bring you a video on... I did a beginner's guide, and I want to bring you this video on what happens when you get to that mid-game level. Now, that mid-game level I consider to be like 35 to 40 to like level 60. So I'm at the end of the mid-game. So I want to bring you some pointers on certain characters that are good to transition off those starting characters to mid-game. And I don't want people to be frustrated because some of those characters from the beginning game you continue to use in the mid-game. But I'm going to go over their kits and things like that. If you have not seen the beginner guide, free to play friendly, I will have a card up in the top right hand corner. You can click on that and check it out. The other thing I want to say is during the gameplay that you'll be seeing, the descriptions of the abilities will show up, and I got those abilities from beadragonchamp.info. Link is in the description. Please go check it out. Amazing website. Lots of good information there. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down by order and clans. The reason I'm doing that is simply for the missions. You have your Dawn of Order, and you have your Rage of Clans, and then you have your Demon Invasion where you can use anybody you want. Stipulations to be on this list are you have to be farmable in the game. And to be farmable in the game, like Soleus will not be on there. And they have to be farmable in that mid-game area where you should be at that time. So, you know, somebody like Tromgar, you should have at mid-game, but he isn't going to be on this list simply because of the fact you can't readily farm him and get ahead in that farm. So what we're going to do is we're going to start today with the Order faction. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight a tank, one healer, 2 DPS, and a leadership. Then there's going to be an honorable mention, and then we're going to talk about 2 people you should be working towards as you progress. So we're going to get started on the Order faction. Now, a good mid-game tank that everybody should be focusing on, and these are players that are again going to carry you into the later game and are going to have viability at the end game, is Kinley. Kinley is a Order Panda, defender and leader. He is a very good tank, and he can be easily farmed by Dawn of the Order 4-3 and Rage of Clans 4-12. So you should definitely be in Chapter 4 by the mid-game, so he should be on your farm every day. So let's check out some gameplay and we'll talk about moves and things like that. Okay, so some things we need to know about Kinley is that he does have a leadership. All the abilities I talk about or show will be at max, level 6. His leadership is called the Lord of the Great Houses. And at level 6, all allied pandas increase their max health by 30%. Pandas recover 5% health for each critical hit dealt and each debuff applied. Now, if you're running a panda team, Patriarch Chi has a much better leadership, but he does have a leadership if needed. Spiritual Recovery is his passive, and his passive at level 6, he recovers 20% of his health at the start of his turn. Now, for a tank, that is humongous. What we are going to do here is highlight his first move, and his first move here is called the Blade of Fury. Now, I do not have it at level 6, but at level 6 it does read that it deals 170% of the physical damage to an enemy. This attack deals 50% more critical damage. If the target is at full health, this attack is guaranteed to be a critical hit. So he does have a pretty decent basic, you know, nothing crazy. The next move here we're going to talk about is his Jade Wave. Now his Jade Wave at max level deals 300% of the physical damage to an enemy, 50% chance to apply tenacity increase to 3 allies for 1 turn. And as you can see here, pretty cool animation, looks like a tidal wave leaving his sword. Next moveset is his taunting ability. His taunting ability can be used on the first turn, and that is called the 5-on-1. Now the 5-on-1 at max level gains taunt and dodge increase for 2 turns, removes 2 debuffs, and recovers 25% health. Now you pair that with his passive ability of a spiritual recovery, you'd be gaining 45% of your health back every time you taunted, if you could max level them. So this is what his taunt does look like. Bangs on his shield a little bit, kind of cool. Now the reason I recommend Kinley so highly is that 1, he's readily farmable. He can taunt on his first turn pretty much right out of the gate. He has pretty decent health pool. He can heal himself. And Patriarch Chi, once you unlock him, he becomes a very viable team. And he also does have synergy with Soleus. And the ability for him to heal himself, the Order does not have very solid healers mid-game, so that just adds survivability to your team. Alright, next up on the Order list is the healer, and I chose Aurelia. I did rank her in my common category, but as far as healers go on the Order side, as a farmable character, she's about as best as you can get. She is an elf. She does have a mass AoE heal, which we'll see. Her viability does die out at the end to mid-game. Now Aurelia does have a passive, it's called the Power of Nature. Aurelia gains a 25% magic damage increase and an additional 5% for each living elf in the party at level 6. The first move here we're going to go over, that is called the Magic Arrow. The Magic Arrow at level 6 deals 190% of magical damage to an enemy and inflicts potency decrease for 3 turns. Nothing real fancy. Does okay damage for a healer. So, on to the next. Next move is her healing ability. It is a mass healing ability, and it is called Mass Healing. Heals all allies for 350% of Aurelia's magic damage at level 6. Now, the reason I recommend Aurelia for the mid-game is there aren't a lot of healer options until you get Soleus, and he is not a farmable option. Her mass heal can really help out, and also her third ability, the Star Orb, is just a secondary heal on your lowest health ally. But all in all, nothing sets her above the bar as a fantastic player. She will die out, as you can see a little bit later on. But overall, she's a very decent healer. Next up on the list is the first DPS. The first DPS on the list is Snorri. He is a human, tactician, warrior, and dragon slayer. He is a glass cannon and does some massive damage. Now for all you people out there that love Snorri, I'm doing this in order of the moves. You definitely want to use Berserker Stance before you really do any actual damage with him. But the first move on his move list is called Battle Leap. At level 6 it deals 250% of physical damage to an enemy. Snorri has a 50% chance to gain an accuracy increase for 2 turns. Little cool leaping ability. The second move on the list is called Deadly Whirlwind. Whirlwind, sorry about that, deals 220% of physical damage to all enemies, inflicting bleed for 2 turns at level 6. Berserker Stance is Snorri's kind of like passive ability. He assumes Berserker Stance, gaining 50% of his turn meter and removing 3 debuffs. While in Berserker Stance, Snorri gains 25% critical chance and 40 speed. This effect cannot be prevented or removed. Using this ability again will cancel Berserker Stance. Now Snorri does have a true passive ability. Snorri gains 30% magic armor and 30% tenacity while not in Berserker Stance. If Friezard is on the battlefield, he receives the same buff, so he does have some synergies with Friezard. So higher game levels, he is going to be one fantastic character. Now the reason I recommend Snorri, obviously his massive damage dealing is huge. His synergy with Friezard makes him a push for the endgame character. The fact that he is a human gives him the synergy with Soleus for counter chance, and again, just his bleed effect ties into a lot of other characters. He's a good, very, very good plug-and-play DPS character. Snorri can be found on Dawn of the Order 512 and Rage of Clans 5.6, so about midway through your mid-game adventure, you should be getting to the point where you can farm him on him for every single day. Snorri can also be found in the Tower mode, where you could use your currency to continuously farm Snorri whenever you have the currency for that. Next up on my list for DPS is Eric the Shieldbreaker. He is an Order human fighter, warrior, and gladiator. He is one of my biggest pleasant surprises in this game. If you watch my other videos, you know why. Let's see some of his moves. Now, Eric the Shieldbreaker does have a passive ability called Heavy Fists. At level 6, Eric gains 30% physical damage increase, an additional 5% for each living human in the party. So the synergy there with under a Soleus lead with a group of humans, his damage can go through the roof. Now his first ability is called Puncture. At level 6 it deals 100% of physical damage to an enemy, plus an 80% of physical damage that pierces shields. This obviously, as his name implies, he does very well against shields, and as you start going into your mid and your end game, shields become more and more prevalent. The second move here for Eric the Shieldbreaker is called Colossus Strike. It deals 390% of physical damage to an enemy. This attack deals 30% more damage against shields, and Eric gains damage increase for 2 turns. Eric's final move is called Rousing Cry. At level 6 he gains debuff immunity and armor increase and applies both to 4 allies for 2 turns. As you can see, Eric the Shieldbreaker's kit is very balanced. It progresses to the point that'll definitely help you to about the end of the mid game. His ability to do more damage against shields, the fact that he can put buff immunity on or debuff immunity on his allies, plus an armor increase is absolutely humongous. And the more humans he has for a legendary character like Soleus just really gives him a great advantage over other characters you could use in this instance. Now, as far as leaderships go, during mid-game for the Order, you're still going to use Darrien. Darrien is an Order human defender, dragon slayer, and a leader. He is just your basic generic tank, and sadly, he has the first leadership you unlock in the game, so you will continue to use him. Now, Darrien's leadership ability at level 6 is called Commander-in-Chief. All allies gain 30% physical armor and 30% magic armor. At the end of their turn, allied members of the Order have a 50% chance to remove 1 debuff. His passive ability is called Reinforcement, and Darrien gains 25% of physical armor increase. By the end of his turn, Darrien has a 50% chance to gain dodge for 1 turn. Darrien's first move is called Hero's Blow. You deal 180% of physical damage to an enemy, deals 235% of physical damage if the target is an orc. Darrien's second move is called Inspiring Blow. He deals 240% of physical damage to 3 enemies, has a 50% chance to apply armor increase to 3 allies for 2 turns. Darrien's final move is called Battle Cry. Gains taunt and armor increase for 2 turns, removes 2 debuffs, and recovers 25% of his health at level 6. Now, the reason I recommend Darrien for your leadership is it a very generic leadership. It covers all of the order. He does have an AoE, which is the name of the game right now, and from a tank standpoint, that is very good. He can remove buffs, and he can give his teammate buffs. All in all, his leadership will hold you through. Now for my honorable mention, I am mentioning Cruel. She is a very late farm. She can be found in 3-6 in the Invasion of Demons. So towards the end of your mid game, you will get there and you'll be able to unlock her. She is a human mage, great damage, can copy people. So she is my honorable mention just for the fact of you can't really get her or start getting her till the late mid game. Now, 2 characters you should be focused on while you are continuing to farm up those characters just on the side. You're going to get to them late. Patriarch Chi, he can be found on Invasion of Demons 3-3. And Dawn of Order 7-3. He is a long, hard farm. He can't be found in any stores, but he probably has the best leadership in the game for the Order besides Solius. And the other one you should continue to grind is Xantera. She is a demon healer, but she is part of the Order faction. She can be found in the Invasion of Demons 3-12 and the Rage of Clans 7-3. Hands down the best healer in the game. Will take Aurelia's spot once you get her unlocked. She has a mass heal. She does fairly subpar damage, but it doesn't matter. She is the best healer, hands down. So everybody, that's my first video going over the Order. I'll have a second video going over the clans. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this video. Do you guys agree with me? Don't you agree with me? Now remember, I consider these group of people who you want to farm that will carry you from 35 to 60. So let me know what you think. Make a comment down below if you like what you see. Subscribe and like the channel. Everybody have a great night. Be safe. And I'm out.